the kill? Что с name?
Name is Professor Volkit.
It's a cowboy!
How can you use a decision like
Professor
that?
Volkit. Professor
Oh, God!
Volkit.
Timing of them so that things could get back into sync.
In a feat of extraordinary genius, these first ever modern computer programmers figured out how to instruct the computer to solve in seconds what had taken them a week or more by hand. In doing so, they laid the groundwork for the programmers and software engineers to come. And they were having the time of their lives.
We knew we were pushing back frontiers.
We were like fighter pilots.
It's sort of like a cross between an architect and a construction engineer.
We could debug the hardware down to a vacuum tube.
We were sure that this machine could do anything we wanted it to do. We were very cocky about that, so we set about to try to make it do it.
We knew what we were doing.
Hell yeah.
Despite the Army's best efforts, ENIAC was not finished in time to solve the artillery's firing table problem. But given that it was programmable, the Army saw many other applications for the lightning-fast machine.
By the end of 45, the war was over, and the ENIAC wasn't quite finished. So instead, it wound up being used for a problem coming in from Los Alamos, still classified. But we think it might have been the trigger to the hydrogen bomb.
Whoa.
6 months after the war ended, the Army decided it was time to reveal the existence of ENIAC. And they decided to do it in a very public way. On February 14, 1946, the ENIAC room was opened up. It was no longer secret. It was opened up to the public, to the press, and to the scientists and technologists. And at one point, the lights were turned out, and the ballistics trajectory program was run, and lights were flashing on the accumulators. It was very dramatic. And after the calculation finished, it took under a minute. The lights came on, and the Master of Ceremonies, Arthur Burks, a young engineer, announced to the crowd that the ENIAC had just calculated a ballistics trajectory faster than it would take for the missile to leave the muzzle of the gun to hit the target. And there was a huge gasp, and the information age had started.
It's the world's first electronic computer. Right now, it's solving mathematical problems for the U.S. Army, but who knows? Someday a machine like this may check up on your income tax.
Or be able to send nudes to your fellow sexual partner. The future of technology.
There was a steady stream of people arriving to take pictures, and of course they took pictures of us, alongside the machine, like models today. I mean, we're treated like models. In that sense, we were kind of flattered that we were considered pretty enough, I guess, to stand alongside this machine.
The demonstration itself was divided into two separate parts. One was a demonstration for the press. But then we had a further demonstration, and to this demonstration were invited all the chief scientists and Harvard and MIT, plus a whole lot of Army brass. And then they had a dinner, but we weren't invited to that dinner.
The ENIAC programmers were never introduced. The women were never introduced. They never got credit. No one knew what they did. The engineers knew what they did. The team they were working on knew what they did, but the public never knew what they did.
Fuck.
They were honoring Eckert and Mauchly and the engineers who had built the machine. And they were honoring the brass of Aberdeen that had had the gumption, you might say, to put up the money for such a speculative type of thing. So we
Shitty thing.
fell between the cracks because we didn't belong to Moore School. And we were just programmers. We were just computers as far as the brass was concerned.
For decades, their pioneering role as the world's first programmers was overlooked, even by historians.
Historians tended to be men with connections to the hardware industry or electrical engineering or mathematics, and they may not have realized that this was happening. and it was sort of invisible to them. And it really came about when women began to do history of computing, and they said, hey, wait a minute, who are these people? What's their names?
One of those historians was computer programmer Kathy Kleiman. As a student at Harvard in the 1980s, she had come across a photo of the ENIAC and wondered who the women were.
I stumbled across pictures of the ENIAC computer, the pictures that were taken in 1946 after and around Demonstration Day when the Army wanted to make a big deal out of ENIAC. And so these pictures had women in them, and I wanted to know who they were. And so
Who are these women?
And they started telling me the stories of how they had programmed it. And I thought these stories belong not just to me, but to everyone.
Stories like the tale of Jean Bartik.
A young girl graduates from a teacher's college in the middle of Northwest Missouri, gets on a steam-powered train, comes to Philadelphia, and the next thing you know, hydrogen bomb calculation, right? She's not told that that's what it is, but that's what she's doing. You know, it's that kind of story. It's so dramatic, and it was completely missed. I missed it myself. I'm as guilty as anybody.
I got to know 4 of the 6 original programmers very, very well. They became my friends, they became my mentors, they became my role models. They got to know my children.
True.
What do I take away from them? That the world needs to know who its pioneers are, and those pioneers were both women and men.
Thanks to the efforts of Kleiman and others, people in the computer community began to listen. By the time their pioneering role was acknowledged, most of the women were in their 70s.
The women finally recognized late in life, after 60 years of only their families knowing their stories. They received awards from IEEE Computer Society, from the Computer History Museum, from Women in Technology International, and other organizations. And they were thrilled, not just to get the credit, but because it put them in contact with young women who they could talk to. And the ENIAC programmers loved talking with young women in technology.
Yeah.
And young women, in turn, seemed inspired by meeting these.
It took them 60 years. 60 fucking years to pull up a damn picture. That's wild.
It was not like other machines. The ENIAC, UNIVAC, and the computers to come were general purpose machines. Programming could make the same hardware perform an almost limitless number of functions, a ballistic trajectory, predicting the outcome of an election, getting a spacecraft to the moon, and more. Some of the
we're still questioning that logic
went on to make other fundamental advances in what would be called software.
I had the great pleasure of meeting Betty Holberton, who was a programmer for the UNIVAC, and she worked with Eckert and Mauchly. And she had this amazing job of programming a machine that had magnetic tape that had to insert data. Now, with magnetic tape, you can't just put a piece of data in the middle. You've got to run the tape and find a blank spot and then connect it to some other spot. And it's all an unbelievable mental challenge. She did it all she just did it, you know, and it worked. And today you've got whole graduate courses about this.
There were many things inspiring about the ENIAC programmers, but perhaps most inspiring is the way they lit up when they talked about programming the ENIAC. How much they enjoyed creating things no one had ever created before, solving problems no one had ever solved before. I have watched young women across the country light up when I shared the ENIAC programmer's story. And I've watched older women light up when the ENIAC programmers came to talk with them. There are still a number of barriers to women in technology, and we're still the minority. And the idea that the field of software and programming was created by women is one that gives all of us a little bit of extra energy and a little bit of extra confidence in the work that we're doing.
There you go. Became the world. Jenny, Betty, Fran, Marlon, Ruth, and Kay became the world's first modern professional programmers. The motherfucking G's. Basically, the Mount Rushmore of programming, ladies and gentlemen. Right here. I mean, you know, they made the hydrogen bomb, but hey. There you go. Jean led the team that converted the ENIAC into one of the world's first stored program electronic computers. Betty went on to a lifetime career of firsts in computers, including developing the first instruction code, the first sort routine, and the first software application. The first software application. ENIAC programs were followed by other women pioneers of computer science programming, including, let's read out the names: Grace Murray Hooper, Evelyn Boyd Granville, Dana Ulrey, Jean E. Sammet, Fran Ellen, Adele Goldberg, Mary Allen. Man, these are some old names. And Mary Allen Wilkes, Dame Stephanie Shirley, Anita Borg. Anita, darling. Major funding for oh, hey, recording limit's about to come out. That's hilarious. Make sure we get all these people, well, all these people credit. That's amazing. Thermonuclear war. Yeah, kinda. Of course, they didn't, I believe, you told them, hindsight 2020, I bet they didn't know much what was going on. Oh my gosh, they didn't even knew that. But still, that's fucking crazy. That's some cool shit, though. And look at that. That's just from, and again, this goes to show, why I kind of want to do this is just, look at that. Just a simple quotation. You build up that curiosity, you dive deeper into these subjects, and then you learn a little bit more about this stuff. Cool shit. All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. The baby, Grace Hooper. Hey, I talked about her. She built the actual first programming language. Was the first person to develop a compiler for the programming language. Yeah, it was basically she talked about, I wonder if there's a thing about her, real quick. Grace Hooper. Oh yeah, let's just check out this. Here. Did you know how I like videos? Okay.
Know some amazing women? Join Women's Stories as we highlight Grace Hopper, an amazing computer scientist, one of the first, and a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. Grace was born in New York City in 1906. She was a curious child, and at age 7, she decided to see how an alarm clock worked. She took apart 7 clocks before her mother figured out what she was doing and took away 6. She did let Grace continue to investigate one. Grace applied to Vassar College for early admission, but was rejected. She was admitted the next year and graduated from Vassar in 1928 with a degree in math and physics.
There you go, that math shit.
She earned her PhD in math from Yale in 1934 and returned to Vassar to teach math. During World War II, Grace joined the U.S. Navy Reserves as part of the Mark I computer programming staff. While working on the Mark II computer, a pesky moth was stuck inside. Grace remarked that they were debugging the system. Today, we still debug computer programs. And Grace's moth is preserved at the Smithsonian. Next, Grace joined the team developing the UNIVAC 1, the second.
Motherfucker invented the first compiling computer, human readable programming language, and coined the term, coined the term debugging.
Commercial computer developed in the US. Grace created a compiler to translate source code into computer language. In 1959, she worked on the committee that defined a new computer language, COBOL. Grace believed that programming languages should be close to English rather than machine code, which was the convention. She first retired from the Navy in 1966 at the age of 60, but the Navy recalled her to active duty because they still had work for her to do. By 1986, when she finally really retired, she was a Rear Admiral. After her final retirement from the Navy, she received many honors and traveled and lectured widely until her death at 85 in 1992. She is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Today, Microsoft's Hoppers, the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing Conference, and the USS Hopper are just a few of the enduring tributes to her. This video is a Women's Stories production. Women's Stories is an open collaborative effort of women around the world to inspire, encourage, and celebrate women's lives.
Damn. All these women in computing. Cool. Grace Hopper.
His name is Professor Voltage. Professor Voltage.